Hey, what's up? It's Bentley and welcome back to my channel. So I haven't really ever done a story time on here yet. So today I'm gonna do a wacky story time about when I was getting my second letter for my name change legalities. My first letter was from a nurse practitioner, so it worked for court and the DMV and a couple other places. But when I wanted to switch my birth certificate in Minnesota, they needed it from an actual MD instead of a nurse practitioner, so I had to find a random MD that would give it to me. My doctor at the time wouldn't give it to me because they didn't want to do it without having the right therapy knowledge or whatever. My therapist wouldn't give it to me because she wasn't a gender specialist, so I had to find an MD that gave out these letters, and the story ended up being really strange. It was really, really, really strange. I left that appointment just cool, so let's start. So I already had my name changed on my ID and my social security and all that stuff. So I mailed my old birth certificate and all the other paperwork to Minnesota. I live in Arizona right now, to change my birth certificate. And I get an email saying, hey, this is all perfect except for the letter needs to be from an MD in the state of Minnesota, not a nurse practitioner. So I was like, crap, how do I do that? So one of my friends at my work actually referred me to the MD that she goes to and gets hormones and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, cool. You already know this person, it's gonna be fine. So I call them and try and make an appointment, and they wouldn't answer. And then they were texting me back and forth, and I ended up making the appointment with the doctor over text, which should have been the first red flag, but I was so desperate. They already had my birth certificate in Minnesota, so it was kind of I just need to get this over with, so I'll do whatever. So I was texting her back and forth, made the appointment, and then she's like, oh, it's gonna be $300. And I'm like, fuck. I have insurance. None of this it's not covered by insurance. It's gonna be $300. I'm like, fuck, whatever, I guess. I asked a ton of other people. No one knew anything. None of my doctors felt comfortable doing it because they didn't specialize in gender. So it was kind of my last and only option as far as I could figure out. You know what I mean? I would just my birth certificate in Minnesota. I need to get this over with. So my first letter I went in the same day. I talked to my nurse practitioner. She wrote it out for me, and I got the physical letter that day, and it was all covered by insurance. I think I had a copay at the time. But I got the letter the same day, so I was expecting, if I was paying $300 to get the letter on the same day, you know what I mean? So I go to the doctor's office, and I get there, and she had told me to get there at 9 a.m. or something, and it was an hour drive from my house, so I already am exhausted. I worked all night. I normally work at a bar when it's not COVID, so I think I got home at 3 a.m. and then I had to wake up and drive an hour there by 9 a.m. and I'm waiting in my car till the appointment time. I go inside to the doctor's office. It was weird. It was a doctor's office, but also yoga and stuff was going on in other rooms and everything, which no shame on yoga, but I wasn't expecting that going to a doctor's office. So but every room was rented by a different type of doctor or therapist and stuff, so it wasn't a collaborative one doctor's office. It was every single office thing was a different doctor, you know what I mean? So I go in there, no one's at the front desk. The front desk is just empty. So I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm oh my god, it's 9:30 now. I'm texting her, she didn't say anything back. And then I walk down the hallway, I see her name on one of the doors. She's not in the room. So I'm what the fuck is going on? I just wasted all my time getting here. I have to work tonight, so I'm gonna be tired at work. Finally, she texts me back. She's I'm gonna be right there. I'm sitting in the waiting room. Some other old couples staring at me, and I'm just this is just so awkward. I just want all this to be over with. She finally walks in. She's in clothes that looks from the night before with hair just all over it. And it's my god, cat hair, dog hair, everything, just more hair on clothes than I've literally ever seen in my life. I've never seen someone have so much hair on the clothes. And she is all zen and stuff, and she's come back here, come back here. When she walks in, she was are you Meredith? And I'm what the fuck? I'm that wasn't even my dead name, but I'm what the fuck is going on? How way to shit on me, you know what I mean? I never even told her my dead name because it was already technically changed on my ID. So I'm no, I'm Bentley. I made the appointment with you. I was the one texting you. What the fuck? So I'm whatever. I'm at this point, this lady can do anything, and I'm still going to just deal with it to get this letter. So I go back into her room. She pulls out her laptop. It's a weird room. There's this big desk, this weird chair for me to sit on. No doctor chair or anything. And then she pulls out of this weird little drawer a thing to check my heart and my oxygen levels, and it was not the doctor version ones was like ones you could like buy yourself at Walgreens, and I'm like, okay, just like check, just like do whatever you need to do. Please just give me this letter. So she's like checking stuff. She pulls out her computer and she's asking me a ton of questions about like how long I've been on HRT, and at this point it'd been like 2 or 3 months, I think. Just like questions about my therapist, how long I've been in therapy, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Just like question. And I'm like answering them, and we're chatting, and it's kind of awkward. And then she'd just like stare at her computer and be like, so I think 45 minutes go by of like questions and stuff. I'm like, okay, when am I gonna get this letter, right? So finally she's like, okay, it's $300. So I give her my debit card, and my debit card wasn't changed yet because I hadn't been to the bank to like change everything over, because my paper from court was in Minnesota, so I was like kind of doing it in steps. So yeah, so I didn't have any of my paperwork to change my debit card until I got my birth certificate back, so I was kind of like, I need this done right now so I can like change everything else. So I hand her my debit card to pay the $300, and then she's like, oh, there's gonna be like a fee because it's on Square. And I'm like, there's a Square fee? Like, what the fuck? So it was like $325, I think, but she took my debit card and read the name, and my dead name was still on the debit card, and she was like, what a beautiful name, why are you changing it? She was openly trans herself. She was an open trans woman, and she's telling me that my dead name is beautiful. Like,
so I'm like, oh, thank you. Give me my fucking letter, please.
So she charges the card, and then I'm like expecting the letter, right? She's been typing. So I'm expecting that she had been typing out the letter. I even gave her an example of what I needed. I was expecting the letter. There was a printer in the doctor's office. I was like, please, like, when is she gonna print out this letter? And instead, she's like, now we get to the good part, now that you paid and the appointment's over. And I'm like, the letter? Like, what? She stands up. She pulls a wand, a wooden carved wand, out of her pants. I don't know where it was. She was wearing like tight pants. Like, they're like leggings. She was wearing like leggings. She pulls out a carved wooden wand and is like, here's the good part. And then she pulls out some sage, and she lights the sage. She puts it around my head, and she's like going around my head, around her. She like did her and then me, and then was like putting the sage around the room. And then she takes the wand, and she was like doing something with my chakras, and she's like, here you go, blah, blah, blah. Shoulders, head, whatever. She started saying like some stuff, like, and no shame if you're into that stuff, but like I was just trying to get a letter, you know what I mean? I wasn't there to have like my chakras aligned or whatever. Like, I just wanted this letter. So like, no shame if you're into that. I was just like not paying for that, not expecting that. And she's just going on all this stuff about cleansing me, and it's fine, because I was like I'm at the point where I tour so much and I travel, so I was like, cool, be in the moment, and I was like kind of enjoying it because it was weird and I wasn't expecting it, you know? But then I'm expecting to get the letter after this is over with, and I'm like, cool, embrace this. This is a weird, like, this is never gonna happen again. Like, no one's gonna randomly pull out like a wand one day and like do this shit again, so like you may as well enjoy it. But anyway, so she's like done with all this stuff and going on about chakras and like how my life is gonna be cleansed and all this stuff. And then she's like, I'll mail you the letter. And I'm like, what the fuck? I woke up early after working a night job. I drove all the way here. I waited. You were a half hour late. You just like cleansed my body and stuff after a 45-minute appointment. Like, why can't I have the letter now? So I had to wait. I had to just wait. I went to work. I think that same week, like 2 days later, my band was going on tour. So like I'd planned on getting the letter and then like shipping it out, going on tour, and then like my birth certificate would be home when I got back from the tour, because it was a smaller tour than we normally do. So instead I go on tour like wondering where this letter is, and it gets to the point of the tour where I'm like, well, it doesn't even really matter, like if she mails it this week or in a month when I get home, it doesn't matter now, because I can't mail it to Minnesota because I'm on tour. I get home from the tour. She had already told me on text message, because she texted me the whole time, that she had mailed it. So I get home and the letter's not there, and I was like, hey, you said you mailed it. And she was like, oh, actually I'm mailing it tomorrow. And then that kept happening for weeks. And finally she's like, oh, I mailed it. And I actually got the letter, y'all. I got the letter. She actually sent 3. I opened the letter. My last name was spelled wrong, which isn't gonna work if you want to legally change like your birth certificate and important documents. And the letter said I was transitioning from male to female. I felt so defeated. So I texted her and I was like, hey, 1, my last name's spelled wrong, and 2, you said I'm transitioning from male to female, which is not the case at all. And she's like, oh, sorry, I must have messed up because I was copy and pasting from an old letter. And it's like, paid you $300 and you can't like pay attention.
So what's like, what?
I don't have words. So anyways, she actually mailed it out the same day because she felt really bad. And I got 3 letters a couple days later that said all the correct things and my last name was spelled right. And shockingly enough, after all this, it actually did work, and the state of Minnesota had no problem with it, and they changed everything. But I am just shocked after all of this stuff that her MD license was real and the state of Minnesota checked and everything was fine, because I had little faith that any of this was gonna work after all of this bullshit going on. Yeah, so now all my stuff has changed and it's fine, and I have those letters in case I need them for anything else. Like, I think I need it for my passport, which is the only thing I haven't changed, just because in the pandemic I can't travel and I don't want to waste the money until I have to. Yeah, so that's one of my crazy story times. If you like the story time, I can do more of this stuff. I have a lot of weird shit that's happened to me and I would love to share it with you, because it's just had some really bizarre stuff happen. Yeah, if you like this video, please subscribe. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Bendy Boo. You can find my merch on Instagram at BentFTMerch, and I will leave a link to the Etsy store below. Help out a small business trans dude. I don't have a job right now because my job and my band can't be like doing what we do. So if you want to help out, I DIY screen print most of the stuff on the Etsy store, and I will leave the link down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a comment down below if something similar has happened to you, or if you have a weird name changing story. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, night, morning stuff. Peace.